Hi, thank you for joining me. So today we're going to do the 2019, last half of 2019 fan translation roundup extravaganza here. I was in no state or position to do a quarter three video when that came around, and I hadn't really had a whole lot of stuff done at that point. But now that we get to the end of this 6 month period, there's a whole lot that's happened. So let's just go in order as much as I can. And we'll start off with my Pachio-kun Let's Play. If you guys follow my channel, you will have seen that. It's a very long, I think there's maybe 17 videos in it, where I just do a playthrough of Mezase Pachi Pro Pachio-kun on the Famicom, a script that I translated, but I really wanted to check it myself, to play test it myself and check the script, because Pachinko has its own unique terminology, and it's also a Famicom game that's all in hiragana, and a lot of the characters speak dialects of Japanese, so I really wanted to make sure that I was doing my due diligence and being as accurate as I possibly could. I really wanted some context on all of those lines, and I can't overstate how much that helped for the quality of that script. I'm really glad that I did that. And I may do that with some other fan translations here that I make. We'll have to see how ambitious I get. But that was good. Now that has been handed over to Provo and Mr. Richard 999, so they are handling that. Hopefully, that is going to be a project that comes to completion with a translation patch. We'll see how it goes. Mr. Richard did some really nice menu expansion on just the start menu in the game. Also, Flash PV did a really cool title screen for that, even accepted some feedback from me, and I redid the title screen, and that's all been inserted, so that looks very nice. And yeah, it's starting to come together. I just haven't heard anything about it in a little bit, so knock on wood, we'll see how that goes. Next up, the Majin Zenki did translate the script for Yaiba on the Game Gear. Now, this is not something specifically that I worked on, but I've been making an effort to just dump scripts for and try to get as many Game Gear fan translation projects kickstarted here as I can. Not kickstarted in the crowdfunding service, but just started in general. And yeah, so I was very excited to hear that that could be an upcoming project here at some point in 2020, so I'd be excited to see that. Next up, I dumped a script for Asmik Land. And actually, I remember almost nothing about this. What's been happening is I'll have, just an evening, and I'll be like, man, what do I want to do? And I don't feel like doing anything. I don't really want to watch YouTube. I don't really want to play a video game. I don't really just... And so I'll sit down and I'll just look at some random game that I know does not have a fan translation for it, and I'll just see if I can figure out the text encoding and, identify the script in the ROM and dump a script for it. And that's what happened with Asmik Land. I think that it's a platforming, side-scrolling game starring Asmik-kun, which is like the ASCII mascot character, I believe. It looks like a cute game, and there's a little bit of text to it. I don't think it's a very big script. So, okay, so this is another update that I was not directly involved in, but I wanted to let you guys know that Supper and CCCMAR and the Majin Zenki that have been working on a lot of these Game Gear projects released an update for Moldorian. Moldorian's a very exciting looking RPG for the Game Gear that seems really cool. And what's really great about this update is that it comes with a fully scanlated manual now in the patch release package. So that's super cool. So there was some fixes, it seems like, too. So a little palette issue that occurred in the original game. So that was a bug with the original that has been improved. A bug that was causing the horizontal separators on the status screen not to show up, a bug that could cause the player name on the enter screen to be displayed incorrectly in certain circumstances. Some modifications to the font just to prevent some confusion between the 0 character and the 8 character. And just some fixing up of some windows and some little script updates and things like that. So it seems like a really comprehensive 1.1 update just to fix little issues with the original release. So I just wanted you guys to know that. I love that about the fan translation scene, is that if people care enough, they can go back, they can respond to feedback, they can just find out that there are little things that they wanted to make better, and and update a patch. So I love that. Next up, so we do have a release. There's a couple of releases here, but I think this is the only one that I directly translated the script for. And that is Gunhead. Gunhead on the Famicom. So this is based on the manga by Kia Asamiya. It does have an official localization here in English by Viz from a long time ago, and I actually have it. It was my friend's, and I ended up with it. And it's also based on the movie. There's a live action movie that has a lot of cool kind of special effects, but it's this Japanese I don't know, like mecha movie. So these people like pilot these tanks, these big sort of mecha robots and tanks and stuff like that, and they're just sort of fighting in this dystopian future kind of thing. It's not the greatest movie in the world. My buddy had the movie as well back in the day, and I know I watched it once or twice. But it's interesting. It's just sort of an interesting like footnote in Japanese like manga and film history. And of course, there was a shoot 'em up game that was kind of rebranded as a Gunhead game on the PC Engine, which is very good, I hear. But this game is really, on the Famicom, is based much more directly on the type of stuff that happens in the manga and the movie. So it's a little bit more of it's like a strategy game, where what you're doing is you're trying to collect resources on this island. So there's this supercomputer that's gone crazy on this island. People are coming in, they're dropping in, and they're trying to get this resource that has the most ridiculous name in the world, but it's this sought-after resource that this artificial intelligence is kind of monopolizing on this island because it's gone rogue, and but so people are just sending in these mechs, and they're trying to fight for this. And so what you want to do is you want to scavenge the island. You're going to scavenge. You're going to collect parts. You're going to improve the quality of your mechs, and then once you're able to basically just have strong enough mechs and defend yourself well enough. Meanwhile, like there's other agents, other factions that are vying for power on this island, so they're going to be sending mechs in, and they might be attacking you. But you're really trying to build your resources up, and then just take out the main supercomputer. CCCMAR did the playtesting on this, and has some descriptions in the README for like how to play and some tips and things like that. So I really recommend you guys check that out. It's a unique game, so I think it's worth taking a look at. Next up, so dumping scripts. I've dumped a lot of scripts. Again, like I said, it's just I've been using it as like a pastime, and it's nice. It feels like I'm doing something interesting, and it keeps my attention. I dumped a script for Pachinko 2 on the Famicom, since Mezase Pachi Pro Pachinko was fun. And come to find out, actually, I guess, I want to say it was Mr. Richard had actually already hooked up with the Majin Zenki to translate Pachinko 2. So that was very interesting. So I think they're working on that independently. But I also dumped a script for Pachinko 3. And Flash PV jumped right on that and made a title screen for it, so that's super great. I think it might even be inserted. I'd have to double check. So continuing with that, I just went ahead and dumped scripts for Pachinko 4, and also for Pachinko Juban Shobu on the PC Engine. So come to find out, Pachinko, I feel like Coconuts Japan sort of saw the potential in this simple, like round, anthropomorphized character, that it really had some. It's just marketing potential, I think, kind of the same way that like Pac-Man does. It was this cute mascot character, and it seems like these games were pretty popular, and so they really spread this around to all kinds of different releases on all kinds of different systems. There's actually a lot of Pachinko games, so I find that very interesting. I'm excited to maybe translate more Pachinko stuff. I enjoyed the first game, so I don't really see why I shouldn't keep going with that. It's not a high priority, but I'm planning to work on some more of those. Now, next up, I of course have been translating the script for Mado Monogatari A, or as we're calling it, Sorcery Saga A, on the Game Gear. Now, this is ongoing here still into 2020. I finished the first draft of the translation in 2019, pretty much towards the beginning of December. But I really wanted to go back, do a really thorough job editing this. I wanted to edit it for wording, so I'm basically doing drafts of the script in terms of just writing. Somebody posted on Twitter when I was talking about this, they're like, writing is rewriting, and they're absolutely right. So, I've been kind of reading back over this, rewriting things, keeping accurate, but just trying to make the wording flow really nicely, like the way that we write things and the way that we speak things in English, so that it feels very natural. At the same time, I've been checking spelling. I've been checking to make sure that all the punctuation and the formatting and things. It's not. I mean, it's gonna have to be formatted when people play test it and check it, but just the formatting of the script in general. And it's taken a lot of passes over some of these to really get this stuff firmed up. So I'm probably about 70% done with the editing passes on that stuff. So I've got a little bit more left. There's one more block that's about 30% of the script, and then I'll be done with that, which is exciting. So that will probably be a release. I don't think it should be too far into 2020 that we get a release of Mado Monogatari A, so I hope that you guys are looking forward to that. Next up, so I dumped a script for Wonder Momo on the PC Engine. So in addition to the Game Gear, which I've pretty much tapped out on scripts that I can dump just about, I've been poking around at the PC Engine. I think it's a great system. I've always wanted to play it more, and just the Hue card games, like, people haven't fan translated a bunch of those. So, Wonder Momo is just like kind of a, I don't know what to call it. It's like Namco. It's an arcade game, I think, that they made, and it's almost a spoof kind of game, I feel like, where it's based on those, I don't even know what you call them, but sort of like the Sentai, like Power Ranger kind of things. But like they'll do these stage shows in Japan, I guess. I've seen it mostly in anime, so I guess I don't know for sure, but I assume that like this is based on a real thing, because they use this gag an awful lot, where they'll have a stage show and people will dress up like these characters, and they'll come out and they'll do a performance, and they'll all have all the kids come and watch it, and it's just sort of like a fun thing you can do with your kids. So anyway, Wonder Momo's like a spoof on that, but there's this sort of kind of like Bishoujo, like a beautiful girl character, and it's like you can kind of like, some guy comes out and tries to take upskirt shots of her while she's doing it, and it's a little, she's kind of fetishized a little bit, so it's a little, I don't know, it's not super progressive, I guess, in that respect, but it's a cute game, and it's a small script. It's not very big at all, so I figured out the text encoding for that, dumped a script for it, so I'll probably take a stab at translating that. Next up, so with Supper and the Majin Zenki and CCC Mar kind of working on projects here, I've been sitting on Bahamut Senki. I just got sidetracked from it, and I've been having a real hard time getting back to it. So instead of sitting on that, I decided to go ahead and pass that back to Supper, really to pass it on to the Majin Zenki, because the Majin Zenki was like, had some free time, wanted to work on something else, and the hacking is all ready to go on Bahamut Senki. So what I'm hoping is that what I did translate of Bahamut Senki, which I have no idea how much it is, maybe 20, 30, maybe 50%. I mean, I did do a bit of translation on it. However much of that I did, I hope that just makes that easier, so the Majin Zenki doesn't have to translate as much. and we can see a release of Bahamut Senki maybe in 2020. I think that would be really cool. It's a a tactical strategy game, sort of like a fantasy sword and sorcery based tactical strategy game on the Mega Drive, which is excellent. That's another system I'd like to see some more fan translations for. Yeah, so I did a whole video on this, so you guys probably already know, but I was working. Oh, I finished making a table file for Sword World SFC, Sword World Super Famicom, obviously a Super Famicom game based on Sword World, the tabletop pen and paper role playing game, which I knew nothing about before that game, but I guess it's like Japan's version of Dungeons and Dragons. It's not actually Dungeons and Dragons, but I mean, like, it's sort of like, it's that I get the impression that it's popular to the level that Dungeons and Dragons is in the United States and other places outside of Japan. I'm sure that there are localizations of D&D in Japan, and I'm sure some people play it, but it sounds like Sword World is kind of like the Dungeons and Dragons of Japan. At least that's the impression I get. So the game seems really cool. I talked about it more. If you're really interested, check out my video on making the table file for it. I still need to go through and ID spots in the ROM that contain text. It's pretty similar to Moldorian in how it lays out its text. So there's a lot of little lines of text all spread throughout the ROM. So I have a lot of work to ID all of those. But I really think that it's work that I can do. I mean, I sat down the other day and I got a whole bunch of it done. I might have to sit down a couple more times and just to get the rest of it. But it's just busy work. I think it's worth doing so that I can dump the script myself and maybe translate it myself. We'll see. Next up, I saw there was a small typo in Outlanders, and I reached out to Pluvius, and they were really good about just hopping in and fixing that. So it was the word bin, BEEN, was just doubled up in the intro, and that was just a typo. And so they fixed it immediately and submitted an update to romhacking.net. So just again, these little being able to do little improvements, little updates to patches is really great. I'm really glad that we were able to kind of find that typo and get that fixed. I dumped a script for Patlabor on the Mega Drive. I am a big anime fan, you guys know, and unfortunately, like, over the years, I've had and seen various versions of Patlabor between the TV series, the OVA series, the movies, all of that stuff. The Patlabor movies in particular, this is a series that Mamoru Oshii worked on, and the movies have a very, especially the second one, has a very, like, Oshii style, sort of, once he's, like, come into his own and sort of his more modern style. So it reminds a person very much of stuff that he did later on, like Ghost in the Shell and some of those things. So there's a lot of very good media around Patlabor, and it's a good series, but it's not necessarily one of my favorites. But I love that there's a Mega Drive game. It looks like an adventure game too, which I don't know that is my favorite thing to play, or even other people's favorite thing to play, but I really enjoy translating them. They're fun to translate. So for me, an anime-based game, that's an adventure game on the Mega Drive, and it actually looks really cool. It sort of has this RPG-like overworld that you can walk around on, and then it has the adventure game segments that you do. I think it looks super cool. I'm pretty excited about that. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll talk a little bit more at the end of this video about what my goals are for 2020 in terms of fan translation. Now, I found via Twitter, I follow Hardcore Gaming 101, and I noticed they tweeted out about this shoot 'em up on the PC Engine called Download. And I've had my eye on Download for quite a while. I know I've tried figuring out the text encoding for it before and didn't really get anywhere with it. I think I took a look at it again and didn't get anywhere with it, because it's, I don't know, there's something going on where it's, I'm not able to find what I need to figure that out. But come to find out, someone who wrote the Hardcore Gaming 101 article about it, I believe, transcribed the whole script from the game, like from video or just from playing the game. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in this video, is especially, shoot 'em ups. If a game is really linear and, all of the text is just out there for you to see if you play the game, you don't necessarily have to dump a script for the game in order to translate the script. And, I'm not looking personally to do the hacking on the game so that it's in English. I'm just sort of looking to translate the script so someone else can do that. So, for my purposes, a transcribed script from a game like that is perfect. So I grabbed this transcription. I even just did a little test translation of part of it just to kind of get a feeling for it. And I think it's something I could translate. I think it's something I would enjoy translating. It's not a super high priority, and what I just noticed literally today, before I made this video, is that somebody posted on romhacking.net in the forum just mentioning the exact same thing, that they saw that there was a transcribed script for download. So it's entirely possible somebody else in the community will actually notice that and decide to translate that script. So that I'm not going to cry tears over that or anything like that. That would be great. So maybe between either if I do it or someone else does it, maybe Download's going to get at least a translated script here pretty soon, and and hopefully that'll turn into a translation patch at some point. Speaking of transcribed scripts, though, I was checking out another game, another shoot 'em up on the Mega Drive this time, and that is a game called Veritex. And same sort of deal. I was noticing that, well, maybe I could dump a script for this, maybe I couldn't, but it has very little text, and as far as I can tell, there's no reason why all of the text in the game is not going to show up in like a long play on YouTube. So I think it was just the ending. So I watched the ending on YouTube, and I transcribed the script from that. I have not translated it yet, I don't think, but it's pretty short, so I think I'm just going to translate that, and that'll be another thing. Maybe I might try taking that to supper and just be like, hey, if you could figure out how to hack this back in, maybe that's another little project for the Mega Drive. I think that'd be fun. So next is a handful of more scripts that I dumped. I dumped a script for Pachinko Kunyan on the Mega Drive. And this actually seemed kind of cool. It's a Pachinko game, and it's about this girl whose father disappears, and it sounds like he might just be some sort of a, like a not a very good parent that just like leaves his wife and kid and goes and indulges in his gambling habit or something. I'm not really sure, but she's playing Pachinko, trying to find her dad. And I mentioned on Twitter, I think, that like when I dumped this script, it was a lot of text. It was like, I think, like 150K or more of text, which for something like that is a lot. That's like a lot. It's not a lot, but I mean that's like a substantial RPG on some systems, like on the 8-bit systems or something like that. That would be a pretty hefty RPG. So there's quite a bit of text to it. So I'm actually really curious, like what the narrative is for Pachinko Kunyan, and I kind of like Pachinko now. So I'm pretty interested in that project, but we'll see. Next up, I dumped a script for Mega Panel on the Mega Drive. This seems like another one of those Namco kind of voyeuristic games, not really over the top. So I think it's fairly innocent. But yeah, it's basically a puzzle game where you're rearranging these panels around and then clearing them out, and then on the other side of the screen, it's like dropping bombs, and based on like what panels you clear, and then those bombs sort of reveal like blow up tiles and reveal images, and they're like images of girls like relaxing and engaging in activities and stuff like that. So like I said, it's a little voyeuristic, but it's mostly just kind of cute and relatively innocent. It seems like a neat puzzle game. I haven't played it, so I don't really know, but there's a little bit of text to it, so I have a script for that. I'll probably translate that. I was also able to dump a script for Cutie Suzuki No, Ringside Angel. Now, this is a game that somebody had posted about on Twitter, and I was like, oh yeah, I looked at that game and tried to dump a script for it, and they're like, oh, that was awesome, like it's so cool, you like do that with video games. I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't actually, I wasn't able to figure it out. And they're like, oh, you know, whatever, it's cool you tried. And so then that got me looking at it again, and I figured it out. So I was like, okay. So anyway, I, you know, figured out the text encoding, you know, dumped a whole script for it. So it's like a female wrestling game. I guess it was like the first wrestling game on the Mega Drive, I want to say. And you know, it seems like a time when like all women's wrestling was like pretty popular, and so I guess Cutie Suzuki is the only actual wrestler like associated with the game, but the other wrestlers, it seems like, are kind of obvious spoofs of actual like other female wrestlers from the time. And I have pretty much absolutely no love of wrestling whatsoever. I've just never really gotten into pro wrestling, unlike a lot of other people I'm finding out that are like into video games and some of the same stuff I am. It seems like a whole bunch of people are into pro wrestling, either were or are really into it now. But I think what's interesting about Cutie Suzuki is just like the seeming amount of care that it looks like was gone in, like put into the game, and it seems like it has a lot of like charm to it. Like you have these announcers that are like doing running commentary over your matches, and it's like it seems like it changes depending on how like the moves that you're doing and how the match is going and stuff like that. And like for a Mega Drive game, like think about that. It sounds, I mean, I want to say it's a bit more sophisticated than, you know, than other stuff that came out during the 16-bit era. Anyway, I've always thought it's looked like a unique game at the very least, and I'm super glad to have dumped a script for it. I think that's cool. Next up, Fire Mustang. I spoke about this a little bit in my most recent video. It's a shoot 'em up, and I was able to dump a script for this one, but it was only for the ending text. So there's a big ending scroll at the end of the game, and I figured out the text encoding for that, dumped the script for it. Now there's other text in screens like before the stages start, and that I had to transcribe, and I detail that in my previous video, so if you're curious about that more, check that video out. But I have a complete script for that game, so I'll probably try translating that at some point. One thing that I want to talk about, arethato. So, you know, again, coming up here in 2020, I don't know exactly what we're going to get, but there's a really good chance that maybe even pretty early in the year, we'll have to see, it might be later, but arethato sounds like it has just gone into beta. So it's being beta tested. This is something that I am working on with Dynamic Designs, and I don't know how much. I mean, it's public knowledge, I guess. Like on Twitter, like Bongo has been pretty open about it, but Bongo is retired from ROM hacking for right now. You know, he's got stuff going on in his personal life, and you know, none of us owe anyone anything in terms of this hobby. He has decided to step back completely, and you know, I don't know if he'll come back and do anything else. So you know, Bongo was the main hacker for Dynamic Designs and has worked on tons and tons of projects. Super knowledgeable about the Super Famicom and Super Nintendo, you know, architecture, and he's really great at writing tools, and he seems like a great guy. I mean, I really like him, and so that's that to a certain extent. Now, I don't want to say like that's that for Dynamic Designs, but that's a big blow to sort of like, you know, the group's sort of ability to just kind of keep moving forward, like cranking out projects. It's Wild Bill's group as far as I'm concerned, you know, so he's kind of in the driver's seat if we, you know, hook up with other people to do hacking and he wants to keep working on stuff or whatever. Maybe, you know, maybe I'm going to keep doing stuff with the Dynamic Designs, you know, maybe not. I mean, I'm not sure how this goes, but I certainly, you know, I've worked with the group for a long time now, and you know, and I like the guys, and you know, and it's been really good. So I'm hoping that we're gonna at least gonna have a couple few more projects here coming out, and Aretha 2 is one of them. All the tools are ready for that. Everything is go. So I think we're gonna see that here pretty soon. So, I do want to basically give major props to Task Force, because he's been really putting the work in on Aretha 2, getting that ready for beta, doing all the coordinating, running the beta tests. So that's awesome. And I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do translating Aretha 1. I didn't translate all of Aretha 2, but I translated like probably half the script, and another translator translated the other half. So those are two really cool big Super Nintendo RPGs that I'm just really glad that we're gonna have fan translations for. So I hope you guys are excited about that. I also did a table file for quizgearfight. This was another thing I talked about on Twitter, and I was like, hey, could somebody help me figure out, and dump a script for quizgearfight? And then someone was like, hey, I took a quick look at this and it looks pretty easy. And I was like, oh. And I looked at it again and I was like, you're right, it's not that hard. And I think it just gets late at night sometimes, and my brain is frazzled, and I've been dealing with anxiety and depression and like issues and stuff. So I think sometimes like I get weird about a project, and so like I thought I couldn't go any further with quizgearfight, and I could. So I finished up the table file for quizgearfight. And I looked through the ROM. It looks like, I don't see any reason why I can't dump a script for that. It's just a quiz game for the Game Gear. But man, there's a bunch of text in there, and I think it's kind of cool, like the idea of translating a quiz game. It depends on how general knowledge, any quiz game that's in Japanese, I figure they could be asking about stuff that Japanese people are going to know, and other people aren't. So who knows? But I'm at least curious to see how that is. I'm really interested. And finally, so we have a release late in the year here. Kind of the only two releases that I get to talk about in this video. The second of the two releases I get to talk about, and that is Mato Monogatari 3. Sorcery Saga 3 for the Game Gear. So excited about this. I did a whole video, like if you look at, a little series of videos, if you might look at my videos about dumping a script for just a game. It's a little tutorial, so to speak. I talk about dumping the script for Mato Monogatari 3. And so obviously I dumped the script for this, but this is another one, like I just handed over to the Majin Zenki, who translated it up. Supper and CCC Mar, Supper did the hacking, CCC Mar did editing and playtesting and stuff on that, and yeah, it's released. So super excited about that. That was right at the end of 2019, so like right around the holidays, I think that was released. And yeah, so what else is coming up here in 2020? I think Mato Monogatari A is probably going to be an early 2020 release. I think Aretha 2, knock on wood, is going to be an early 2020 release. And other than that, who knows? My priorities are, of course, to finish the editing on Mato Monogatari A. I would like to do the playtesting and editing for Team Innocent. I feel bad that I've left that for a number of months, so I really want to get that done. I would very much like, personally, after hopefully both of those things are done, to translate the script for Magic Knight Rayearth 2 on the Game Gear. I think Supper has expressed unconditional interest in that as a project, and I am very interested in that as well, and translating that. It's a really cool looking raising sim. I've played some of it myself, and I've really enjoyed what I played of it. I think it's probably, the first game is like a cute little RPG, but it's just an RPG. It's fairly linear. You're going to spend maybe 5, 6, 7 hours tops maybe playing through it, and that's kind of it. Whereas this raising sim, I don't know that you're going to be playing, I don't know how long you're going to be playing it, but it just seems like there's a little variety to it, and it seems pretty fun. Anyway, it doesn't matter necessarily how long these games are. They're portable games. A lot of times they're meant to be played in short short spurts or not for a particularly long time, but it looks like a cool game, and I'm really excited about translating it. So yeah, I'll be doing that, and after that, I don't know. Some more games that could stand to be transcribed. Somebody was telling me they had been taking a look at Ninku Gaiden, and they were saying that the way that it deals with the text is really weird, where I don't know, like it uses a different encoding for all the text, or it like auto generates it, or it does something to it where it's not like a lot of other games where it's pretty easy to just figure out the text encoding and dump a script. So I'm thinking a little more along the lines of like some of that stuff in Fire Mustang, where it's like, if you can transcribe it, you might as well transcribe it. Now, I found a video on Nico Nico Doga of somebody playing through Ninku Gaiden, and it seems like it's linear, and you're just going to have some text before each stage, and it's like some sort of puzzle game. So I'm probably just going to transcribe a script for that as well. So, I've got more than enough stuff to translate. What comes after Magic Knight Rayearth 2, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe some of these transcribed scripts, maybe, I dump a script for Sword World on the Super Famicom and translate that. Maybe I do Patlabor for the Mega Drive. Maybe I work on more of these Pachinko games. Who knows? I mean, that's for the future me to figure out whatever I feel like doing at the time, I guess. But yeah, it's certainly been quite the last half of 2019. I had personal stuff going on. I've had things I've been dealing with. But, just being able to indulge in this hobby has been a source of comfort for me. Just like I said, in terms of just passing the time, sometimes I need something to occupy my mind, and I've really enjoyed digging into some of this stuff. And I'm glad that I'm able to, make some scripts available for other people to translate, to get some other projects started, to get some of like the projects that I've worked on myself, like see them come to completion, and and just to translate a few of these scripts. I just think this has been a whole lot of fun for me, and I'm gonna keep working on this here in 2020. I definitely have other priorities in 2020, but I think I'm gonna keep messing around with translating games because it's something I really enjoy. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. This video I know is long, but I just had tons of stuff to go over. So thanks for sticking with me, and yeah, I hope you'll join me again. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.